There are so many new details that were just revealed about the new Indiana Jones game, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
The Great Circle.
Not only do we have new details on gameplay, progression, the upgrade system, Indiana Jones's many uses for his whip, the graphics, puzzles, and open world sections of this game, but also combat and much more evidence as to why Indiana Jones completely hates Nazis. So I recently got invited to a special event in Sydney where Bethesda asked me to come and play Indiana Jones for 3 hours. But I did not attend because I was overseas being a real-life Indiana Jones in India. This photo was actually taken at PAX in Melbourne this year. Thanks to everyone who came and said hi. But here's a photo of me in India exploring ancient locations and puzzles just like Indiana Jones. If you want to see more of that, you can come follow me on Instagram. Okay, but even though I didn't go to the event, I got to see a lot of the gameplay footage that was shown at the event. And shout out to my friend Norza who played the game, who's provided a lot of what's in this video. Go check out his channel, he's awesome. But this new Indiana Jones game, I think in a lot of ways has really surprised me with the approach they've decided to take here. Based on everything I've seen and heard about it, it feels so different to, I think, what we were initially expecting an Indiana Jones game to be, which would be in a similar style to an Uncharted or Tomb Raider style game. They've really taken a different route here. This game is made by Machine Games, who are probably most well known for making the Wolfenstein series in recent times, and for specializing in first-person action-style gameplay.
Skulking through Nazi Tossa Central.
However, when it comes to Indiana Jones The Great Circle, you won't be the overpowered gunslinging maniac you are in the Wolfenstein games. You will still be a bit of a maniac though, and definitely a murderer.
Alright, Kyle, you asked for it.
Hey everyone, it's Andrew. If you've played Dishonored, that's probably a better way of describing the stealth-style gameplay you'll be playing through in the new Indiana Jones game, except a little slower, and you're definitely quite nerfed. I really appreciate that in this new game, you really don't feel overpowered. You feel kind of vulnerable as Indiana Jones. I initially thought it was a strange decision not to make this a third-person action-adventure game, considering you kind of want to see yourself playing as Indy. But the first-person approach offers quite a fresh perspective on the Indy franchise, and specifically sets this apart from Uncharted or Tomb Raider, where you are still kind of a bit overpowered. Combat in this game is much slower, and you definitely will need to be heavily reliant on stealth in certain sections, otherwise you're gonna die. You're by no means overpowered in any way. And I think the decision to make the game feel like this is true to the Indiana Jones movies. Indy always feels a bit vulnerable, and yes, even though he clearly has some plot armor, he's always still kind of getting beaten up. And I like small details that show this. You will see Indiana Jones in third person when you're climbing, and it's so cool seeing him struggle to climb up. The climbing animation isn't really that smooth. He looks like he's struggling and like he's not a trained climber, like he's just an every guy trying to climb his way up this whip. Even the way you can hear Indy breathing when he's crouched, you can hear him being kind of a bit out of breath, kind of like a bit of an older guy, and kind of like someone who isn't necessarily trained in highly skilled stealth combat. Or how about this small animation where Indy shakes his hand after punching someone because it hurt. Punching people with your bare fists hurts. So the game has a skill and progression system where you unlock what are called adventure points that will help Indy improve some of his skills. First, you'll need to actually find these skills in the world while playing through the game and exploring. The game is linear, but there will be some open sections. For example, the Pyramids of Giza section looks a lot more open than some of these tighter corridors. And then once you find a skill book, you'll need to spend some of the adventure points to unlock the skills within. And adventure points are actually earned by taking photos of things in the environment, and also by discovering other clues and artifacts. The game definitely has a bit of Metroidvania style gameplay where you can retrace your steps and revisit areas you previously hadn't explored. And there will be side missions here which are called field work and other activities such as mysteries and puzzles or discoveries that you can all find displayed in your journal. And with this, the game gives you the freedom to return to previously explored areas at pretty much any time, which I think is so good. If you want to go back, you didn't go down that hallway, or you didn't try and open that door. Maybe you have a skill now that you can use to unlock a new area. This is perfect for an Indiana Jones style game, fits right into the lore, into the universe. Really glad they've made this decision. I'm gonna be getting sidetracked every 2 seconds while playing this, especially considering the detail of some of these environments. Look how many books and things are on this shelf. Someone needs to clean this up. It's a mess. Also, graphically, these locations look really stunning. Just want to throw that in there. The amount of detail, the shadowing, the lighting, even just seeing Indy's silhouette, simple things like this. Really top notch. I'm a fan. Now, the adventure points that I mentioned can also be used to upgrade other parts of Indy's arsenal, including his survival skills, his fitness, his packing and inventory size, his brawling, melee combat, ranged combat, all of these things. Now, the survival element of this game is kind of interesting because there's a thing you can unlock called Lucky Hat, which basically allows you to revive yourself if you die by crawling over to Indy's hat, which you'll see on the ground if you're dead. You can crawl over to it, pick it up, put it on, Indy suddenly comes back to life. It's Indy's lucky hat. It's Indy's magic hat. But such a fun feature. We see multiple times in the films where Indy almost loses his hat and just goes back to grab it. His hand slides under the door as he grabs it and puts it back on his head before his hand is crushed. Things like that. And they've incorporated that into the game so well with the survival skill. Really cool. Fitness, you can also upgrade Indy's health and his stamina. Stamina allows Indy to climb faster, to sprint for longer, to punch more, and to use his whip more, things like that. So it kind of also ties into combat. You also have an inventory for things like bandages and other supplies, and upgrading this will allow you to carry more. And there's a few different elements to the combat which we haven't really seen too much of in previous trailers and footage. Now, I think it's fair to say that combat at times definitely looks a little bit clunky, but that kind of fits into Indy's way of fighting. He's not really a skilled fighter. He's kind of just a bit of a brawler. He throws his fists around and hopes for the best. Now, there are a lot of melee weapons to pick up, including baseball bats, bottles, you name it, sticks, other things in the environment. And you can also throw these either at enemies or as a distraction that'll make a noise that will distract your enemy. In this sense, the stealth gameplay is kind of similar to what we've seen in a lot of other first-person stealth style games. You throw the thing, you go over, you take him out from behind. It's nothing that fresh. It just has an Indy skin on it, which I guess is kind of part of what makes it fun. You can also only carry one melee weapon at any time, and you can't put it in a holster or anything like that. You just carry it and then use it. And there are also a bunch of gun pickups, and these all have limited bullets. However, once you use up the bullets in the gun, you can then flip it around and use the butt of the gun to attack an enemy melee style. Let's be real, they had it coming. But the good news is, Indy always has his revolver and his whip with him. I'm not too sure how the revolver ammo works, whether you need to find ammo for your pistol, but the whip is always with you and has multiple uses. You can use it to whip enemies in the face. You can use it to whip other parts of their body. You can whip an enemy's hand to knock their weapon to the ground. You can pull enemies towards you. You can use the whip to hook onto something and swing across, or to climb up or down to certain areas. And watch as Indy struggles to climb his way and hopefully doesn't fall perilously to his death. Now, another interesting thing they've added to the game is disguises. I don't think I have any footage of this, but for example, you can find a worker disguise and walk around an enemy camp without being noticed. But then higher ranking enemies like captains will still notice you and act suspicious if you're doing suspicious things. If you're being a little sus, like stealing things, they'll become aware. But it's basically added that Hitman style mechanic where you can just walk around other areas you normally couldn't in disguises. It's a game that's heavily focused on stealth when it comes to combat, so you're going to be doing a lot of sneaking and not necessarily a lot of killing. Kind of like the opposite of Wolfenstein, to be honest. Now, I also thought it was interesting seeing how slow-paced some of the more puzzly sections of the game actually are. You're gonna spend a while just looking for clues and walking around some of these locations, which are beautiful, and being able to interact with your environment, touch different things, turn lights on and off, pick up objects, put them back in place, and try and connect the dots on a puzzle. They're really trying to immerse you in that first-person Indiana Jones experience of trying to uncover the clues of the Great Circle and the mystery that surrounds it. So the game is set between Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. The Indiana Jones timeline is kind of confusing because the second movie actually occurred before the first one. But the game starts in 1937 inside the Marshall College. This area is a bit of a tutorial area and is where Indy teaches in college in those scenes we see in the movies. But the game is taking us on an international adventure. You'll also get to go to the Vatican in Rome, to the pyramids of Giza in Egypt, to the Himalayas where this boat is somehow up in the mountains, to the Sukhothai temples of Thailand where you'll likely be killed and frightened by a snake, in that order.
I hate snakes, Chuck!
And also I think a couple more unrevealed locations that we will just have to wait for. Hopefully a location that finally explains the mystery of the Great Circle.
The Great Circle.
The story, to me, honestly also seems really interesting. An artifact is stolen from Marshall College, and in his quest to get it back, Indy uncovers the mystery of the Great Circle that connects all of these locations around the world. And on his journey, he will obviously also come across the Nazis, who are also after the power of the Great Circle. Choo-choo! Now, I'm really a fan of the villains so far in this game based on what I've seen in the trailers and the gameplay that we've been provided with. They feel so Indiana Jones-esque, evil, flawed, and set in this specific era of history. And in saying that as well, having heard so much more dialogue from the gameplay and actually being able to witness Indy in first person, just walking around, talking to himself, talking to enemies, talking to other, I don't know, objects. Troy Baker has truly done an awesome job with the motion and voice capture here. He really seems to fit right in here after having played Joel in The Last of Us, after having played Nathan Drake's brother Sam in Uncharted 4. He seems so familiar with these styles of games and this style of character that he seems to fit right in as Indy, and most of the time I'm not even noticing it's not Harrison Ford voicing this.
He took the cat mummy, Marcus.
But overall, I can't wait for this game. I'm really excited for it. It's been such a long time since we've had an Indiana Jones game, and we've never had one in this style. I'm definitely still skeptical about a few things. I think maybe combat could become a bit repetitive as you play through longer and when you get deeper into the game, but hopefully they find ways to keep things fresh and keep you interested. Definitely still a little skeptical of the first-person approach, but it seems like with Machine Games' first-person history, they're gonna nail this. Once again, shout out to my friend Norza for the help with this video, and thanks to Bethesda for inviting me to the event, even though I didn't go. And don't forget to come follow me on Instagram, Twitter, join my Discord and TikTok for more. And you can watch this other video here, and thanks for watching this. My name's Andrew. I'll catch you soon.